You could reflect a little bit about what was going on for you before you joined Wealth Academy, like what financially,
For
like how
sure.
were you feeling?
For sure. So before I joined Wealth Academy, I had been in my business freelancing for about a year, which that was a really big leap for me. I have always worked in a 9 to 5 and have always had that security or comfort of like a pension and benefits and knowing that steady salary is coming in. So one, it was really scary for me to have a variable income and take that leap. And then two, like not really knowing where to start with investing and saving. And I mean, like I've always been, I feel like a pretty good saver. But with that variable income and things just kind of being all over the place and investing in my business, like I really felt kind of like out of control with my finances and not sure like where to start foundationally.
So with
Yeah.
not being sure of where to start, how were you feeling about your financial future when you felt like the money was inconsistent and you felt a little bit out of control? Were you thinking about the future or were you really like in the moment?
Yeah, I think at that time I was really focused like on the moment, like I need to pay my bills and I need to kind of meet this minimum like to survive. But then also thinking about like how can I replace that pension that I used to have in my 9 to 5 job and think about the future because although like I'm in the present moment and I'm trying to live day to day and make that consistent income as an entrepreneur, I'm also, thinking about the future and like, well, what does retirement look like when I'm fully self-employed and how can I support that future that I want to have that maybe with my pension and my government job might have been a little bit easier, but as an entrepreneur, like how can yeah, I guess just how can I support that? Like I was like, what do I need to do to be able to meet those future goals too, right? And, get by day and pay my bills and still have some
And so
savings.
when you heard about
Right.
Wealth Academy and you heard about the offering, like what was it about it that like pulled you in and made you think this is a program that will be helpful to me and I want to sign up?
I think for me, honestly, like a lot of it is your approach
Hmm.
and, like you're warm and welcoming and friendly. And it's like learning from a friend and having a friend explain these things to you, where I feel like I just detest going into the bank or like talking to a financial advisor and like some of these people who I feel like they're a little bit condescending when you're not in that world and you don't know what you're talking about. And it's stuff that I was never really taught, right? And so being able to learn that and ask questions and figure that stuff out from somebody who has been in those shoes and has walked that path, I think was really appealing to me.
Oh, that's awesome. And I don't know if it's fair to say for you, but when we feel that way, I know for myself and a lot of women, we just avoid the conversation because we don't want to feel embarrassed or less than by going into the bank or like walking away feeling like more confused after.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I feel like that's the case. A lot of these things that I've done in the past where it's been like having those conversations with a financial advisor at the bank, for example, like I do walk away feeling more confused and I do feel like, okay, like I'll just do what they say because they know best. And like, even though it's my money, and then you feel a little bit less in control and less powerful, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I did feel really comfortable asking questions and like learning from other people in the group and on kind of the wealth momentum calls is like everybody's starting from somewhere, right? And there's no shame or no embarrassment and no judgment in that. And it just felt, yeah, like I think that judgment-free environment was really important to me. So what I
Yeah.
loved about Wealth Academy was the whole package. Like I love that the course modules and the exercises I could work through on my own time. I liked having the community wealth momentum calls to be able to hear other people's stories and learn from you. Um, and I think some of the exercises that really stood out as valuable to me that I was actually just flipping through my notes is like the determining what I really value spending money on. So instead of feeling shame for spending money when, you're trying to save and invest and pay off debt and all the things, it's like you're really spending intentionally like on the things that are important to you and that's going to be different for every individual. But that was a powerful exercise for me that I had never really considered before. Like I kind of just thought, oh, I need to be really strict and put everything into these buckets and not also enjoy my life, which doesn't really make sense, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the problem I always saw with the different programs and people speaking about money before is it was so all or nothing or,
Yeah.
so heavy on the budgeting and the women that are like me, it sounds the same for you is like you want to be focusing on like abundance and like creating more for your life and if you're just thinking about, oh, I have to cut it all out and it's just like when you're dieting, like you're gonna cheat.
Totally, totally. I think like the stricter you are, the more you're going to rebel and cheat. Exactly. And I feel like having the other one that I was thinking about is having kind of the different buckets for savings or investing. Like if you're, saving for like a trip or like a larger expense or something, like having those different buckets is something I never really considered before, right? Like I had my savings and I put money into RRSPs and that was kind of it. So
Mhm.
now I've really divvied everything up into like different business accounts and different savings accounts and I just feel like I have a lot more control and which feels good because as an entrepreneur having like as a freelancer having variable income coming in like which can feel really uncertain. I
Mhm.
feel like I have a better system and better control in place for the money that I am making.
I have goosebumps because
Oh,
it's like that's what this is about, right? This
yeah,
financial liberation of feeling in control. It's not about being in control, it's feeling in control. It's like just
totally.
knowing that, oh, I am organized in a way that works for me. And even if I make $2,000 less this month, I know what are my like hierarchy of things I'm where I'm putting my money. So like maybe you don't put $1,000 in your safe for Tofino trip this month,
Mhm.
but it's empowering. And
Totally.
that's the point is that you find a system. So, and it sounds like you were able to take the information and really develop a system where you do feel in control.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I was in my previous 9 to 5 job, I was making more money at that time than I am currently. Like I'm not quite there yet. But I feel like I was making more, so I was just spending more and I wasn't being strategic about that money coming in. And now I kick myself. I'm like, I wish I would have known this when I had that consistent salary, but now I can do it with the income that is coming in, right? And as that builds and as my business grows, like I have a more foundational system in place to be able to better manage it than I did
I know
before.
how you feel about money
That's
now, but
so
how do you
great.
feel
And it's
about investing and like what have you set up for yourself in terms of starting to replace your pension for investing?
For sure. So I do right now, I'm saving 10% of what I'm making so 10% of my income, I'm just saving that right now. And then I also have like a monthly deposit going into my Wealth Simple account. And this might not be the best example because I haven't done anything with it yet. Like I messed up a few months, but I've got a few $100s in there that I need to do something with. But now it actually feels after taking Wealth Academy, like it feels accessible.
Hmm.
Whereas before, I think investing, I was like, oh, that's not something for somebody like me, right? Like I don't make enough to invest or like I don't know enough to invest. And now it actually feels like, well, why not? Like why aren't I doing that? Or like why couldn't I be doing that? And so it feels less scary. Like it feels like it's just another tool to help to build my wealth, right? With it, like it feels so
Absolutely.
much more I guess simple than I ever thought that it could be.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, hey, just like getting ourselves to the point where we not only feel in control, but then we feel like, well, anything's possible. I just need to tackle the next thing. And um, maybe you never thought you would be somebody who invested in the stock market by yourself, but now
Totally.
you are. And you're also
Totally.
every single dime you make in this TFSA is yours. Like you're not taxed on any of it.
It's super exciting. And it's like, yeah, like I said, it's just like a world that I didn't even think, not that I didn't think it was possible, but I'm just like, oh, that's not for me, right? Like you have the stories of like, who are the people that invest in the stock market, right? Like I never considered that to be myself. But after taking the course, it just opens up a lot of possibilities, right? Like a new way of thinking about it. I
It
think the
does.
surprising wins I've had is like I just didn't expect it to be such a foundational level of knowledge, like really teaching you and taking you through the process of like, here's how to save, and here's how you can save, and here's all the different ways to invest, and how it can be really, really easy. And I think um, the really determining what's valuable for me to spend the money on instead of spending a bit impulsively or a bit like recklessly, where I may have done that in the past. It's like really thinking about the things that are important to me. And what I spend on, and I can feel good about that spending and not feel like the guilt and shame of that spending. So I think that has been as equally valuable to me as like the learning about the saving and investing. I
Yeah.
think something that I'm doing now that I never thought that I would do before is the actual investing. So it's like transferring the money into the TFSA. And in the past, I would have just left it there and not done anything with it, not known any better. And so now the next step for me is actually like investing that money and having that automated, which is really exciting to think about that I can just have that, automated and not have to think about it.
Yeah, it could be done today.
I think what I would say
Totally.
to other women would be to just take the chance and learn. Like, I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and the education is so powerful. And we all grow up with these different money stories and different beliefs about money. Um, and I think it really showed me what is possible and how even if you have a variable income or whatever your financial situation may be, like you really can put in place tools and systems to like feel that control and have that control with your money. I think what I would say to a woman who's considering taking the Wealth Academy course is that education never hurts, right? The education is foundational and it's just going to give you more knowledge to be able to take better control and, have tools and systems in place to feel more in control with your finances no matter where you're at. I think something that I walked away from the course with that I didn't anticipate was realizing all of those money stories and the limiting beliefs around money. Like I didn't know that I had all of those, and it really helped me to identify those and then to try to work to figure out how I can overcome that using the knowledge that's taught in the course, right? And just really painting a different picture, like telling myself a different story about what it can look like in the future. I think all of the information that I learned in Wealth Academy, like it's so valuable. And I wish that I had known that growing up. Like I was always taught to save money, but like nothing about investing and nothing about why or like the different vehicles for doing that. And I mean, had I learned that growing up or had we learned that in school, I feel like when I started out in my career in my early 20s, I'd be in such a better financial position now that I'm in my late 30s. Um, and I mean, better late than never, right? Like, I think starting is better than not starting at all, or sorry, starting late is better than not starting at all. But I feel like had I known that information, I just would have been in a different place with money, and I think I would have been more confident taking the leap into entrepreneurship in that uncertain financial situation because I would have had those systems and those tools and that knowledge in place, right? Like I could have automated that investing while I was still in a 9 to 5 job and kind of have that going in the background while I was taking the leap and kind of building my business on the side. So I just feel like things would have been better had I started earlier, but that I'm glad that I started now. So
Yeah.
before I took Wealth Academy, when I was in a 9 to 5 job, I was making a really good salary and I felt good. I was making good money, and that's the most money I had ever made. But I also wasn't really strategically using that money, saving it well, or investing it in any way. I had this pension, so I feel like I always had this pension that I could fall back on. And I feel like, the more I was making, the more I was spending. And I wasn't being thoughtful about the money that I had coming in. And so taking that jump into entrepreneurship, really, I was like, I need to do something where I can feel more in control because I don't have this consistent salary coming into me every 2 weeks. Things are variable and you don't always know what's going to happen next, which can be really scary. And so I feel like that to me felt scary and overwhelming enough that I needed to get something in place so that I could have some security.
Yeah.
And now that things are more consistent in my business, I have more consistent income coming in with regular clients. I feel like I have more power. Like I just feel okay, like really confident in the decisions that I'm making with the money that I am making now. And I just wish I only wish I had done it sooner already, but I feel like learning from you, Nicole, it feels like learning from a friend. Like it feels really accessible where I've all told myself all the stories. Like I'm not good at math, I'm not good at numbers, I don't know anything about investing. I don't like talking to people at the bank. Like it feels really condescending. Um, and so I just feel like having this like judgment-free environment where you can ask questions and have somebody who's really welcoming and like wants to share the knowledge. Like you're not gatekeeping, you're really providing people with what they need to know, and helping women just feel more secure and in control of their finances. So I think that that's really powerful.
Oh.
I will say too, though, one other thing to add is I feel like it's really, after taking the course, it's really got me thinking about other sources of income
Mm.
and not just my business, or like having a job, but other sources that could create more wealth, like having a rental property or looking at putting in a garden suite or something like that. So it's just got the wheels turning, where before that's something that I never really, I was just like, oh, people, you need to have a lot of money to be able to do that, right? Like you have these stories, where now I feel like, no, there's a lot that's actually like fairly accessible, that could be a goal to bring in other money, right?